Hey, I'm Denny Cummings, the chairman of the Union League Club Authors Group, and what a thrill to have Sergeant Meyer here today. And to have all of you here today. We have a couple of tables from our American Legion post right here. You might just wave, and so everybody knows who you are. And very active American Legion post, I should say. One other thing I want to mention is each of you have a card at your place that looks something like this. Several years ago, we began a program called Support the Troops, just to see how it would go. It started in our library. We would have a speaker from the military, typically, and the idea was to have those who were in attendance bring things that we could then send to the troops. So whether it was books or DVDs or CDs or even iPods, batteries, some of the things that they let us know that they needed, and we collected a few boxes and sent them to the troops. Each year it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think last year we sent over 300 boxes to the troops, and we collected a lot of money, which, of course, if you come to the event and you haven't brought a set of batteries, you don't need to feel bad, because we have like $25 bags, $50 bags, $100 bags, $40,000 bags if you want to bring that, and we'll fill them full of things that they need. So that's on November 8th, starting at 6 o'clock, and you'll see here who our speakers are, and they are equally spectacular. So I hope you'll come and bring whatever you can. Bring that big check that we're talking about. One last thing that I'll say, and that is if you have a cell phone, this would be an appropriate time to turn that off, so there are no interruptions. And we will have cards. I don't know if we have them yet at the tables, but we'll have cards in the event that you have questions. And we'd appreciate it if you'd fill out those cards, and they'll be collected and handed to me so that we can just then get them up to Sergeant Meyer. All right, I'd like to introduce to you a really important partner for this event. This is the first time we've partnered with leading authorities, and we couldn't be more thrilled. So I'm going to introduce to you Mike Barrett, who's going to tell you a little bit about leading authorities. Mike.
Thank you, Denny. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. I'm Mike Barrett. I'm the Senior Vice President with Leading Authorities here in Chicago. First, I would just like to thank the Union League Club for partnering with us on this event. As Denny said, it's the first event we're working together on, and I hope it's going to be the first of many. We're really excited about the event today, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about us, and then we'll introduce Dakota for sure. So, we're a speakers bureau and event design firm here in Chicago. If any of you have meetings, events, things like that where you're looking to program that, that's what we do. And we've been partnering with different organizations throughout the city to kind of showcase some of the speaking talent that's out there, helping organizations, trade associations, and corporations right now speak to their members and employees and families and things like that. So I have a couple colleagues with me here. Matt Jones is at the front table and Ned Jamanovich there. So if you have any needs, come see us afterwards. We'd love to talk to you. So today I have the pleasure of introducing Sergeant Dakota Meyer. He's a Marine Corps veteran and the recipient of the Medal of Honor, the military's highest honor. He's the first living Marine to have received the medal since 1973 and is also one of the youngest. When the Marines went missing after being ambushed, Meyer defied his orders in order to save his comrades. For his actions that day, President Barack Obama awarded Meyer the Medal of Honor on September 15, 2011. Meyer was also inducted into the Hall of Heroes at the Pentagon and honored with a parade. Since then, Meyer has raised more than $1 million to help send the children of wounded Marines to college. And finally, as you've all seen, he is the author of Into the Fire, a first-hand account of the most extraordinary battle in the Afghan War. Leading Authorities is very proud to exclusively represent Dakota Meyer, and now I want to show you a video to hear a little more about Dakota and his story. Thank you.
It's kind of frustrating because, everyone wants to get an interview about the worst day of your life.
It was a straightforward mission that then 21-year-old Sergeant Dakota Meyer had been assigned that day. Meyer waited anxiously by the vehicles as his team began their patrol of the village on foot. As they approached, the lights in the village blinked off. All hell broke loose. More than 50 insurgents fired from positions on mountains surrounding the valley and from within the village. Back at the vehicles, Meyer heard the firing and could see into the valley. The volume of fire increased, and the radio traffic grew increasingly desperate. Wounded but steadfast in his decision, Sergeant Meyer entered the kill zone 4 times, swapping out guns and trucks and rescuing his trapped and wounded comrades with each run.
Dakota's the kind of guy who gets the job done. In so doing, he has earned our nation's highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor, and we are extraordinarily proud of Sergeant Dakota Meyer.
Medal of Honor recipients are often called the bravest of the brave. As the first living United States Marine to receive the honor in 41 years, Sergeant Meyer is only the 3rd living recipient since the Vietnam War.
I'll accept the award on behalf of the guys that died, on behalf of the guys who have passed before, on behalf of the Marines and the men and women who are still over there fighting every day.
Today, Sergeant Meyer has dedicated his time to raising awareness and money to benefit the children of fallen Marines. He has also issued the Dakota Meyer Scholarship Challenge to America to match his efforts with the goal of raising an additional $1 million for this cause. He also wrote Into the Fire, a first-hand account of the most extraordinary battle in the Afghan War. Leading authorities would like to thank our co-host, the Union League Club of Chicago, for its generous support of today's program. Humble, courageous, and determined. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sergeant Dakota Meyer.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I got a question. Do you think that I could, like, when I go out and use a reference, you think I could show that video where the president says that, well, Dakota Meyer is the guy that gets the job done, it'll get me a job? So, I want to start off by thanking the Union League Club for having me here today and letting me share my story, leading authorities for going around and helping me get out to crowds and getting crowds here and share my story as well of the men and women who have served. And I want to thank all of you for showing up and giving me the support. I really appreciate it. So I'd like to start off the question of, why am I here today? Why am I standing in front of you and getting ready to give you all a speech? Because I have to say, as a 24-year-old high school educated sergeant in the Marine Corps, this is not a group of people or where I would expect myself to be standing right now. But I want to thank you all again for the opportunity to let me do this. So by now, everyone in here has heard of me. Whether you know me as a small-town guy, Dakota Meyer, who does construction, or you know me as Sergeant Dakota Meyer, the Medal of Honor recipient, you've more than likely in some way, shape, or form heard of me by now. But it all started off, I was a typical high school student, 17 years old, and I was walking through my lunchroom, and I knew everything back then. And I was walking through, and a Marine recruiter was sitting in the back corner, and he had his dress blues on, and I'm telling you, this guy looked like he could have been the President of the United States. And I went up to him, and I started asking him a lot of smart-aleck questions. What's this for? How'd you get that? Oh, yeah, well, I can shoot a .308. I can hit a deer at 100 yards. Not impressing him at all. So he took it for a minute, and he said, so what are you going to do when you get out of high school? And I looked back at him, acting tough, puffed my chest out. I said, well, I'm going to go play football somewhere. And he said, yeah, that's exactly what I would do too, because there's no way you'd ever make it as a Marine. So quickly I realized, and I guess that's what they're supposed to do, I don't know. So quickly I realized I'd set myself up. So I went back to my classroom, my lunch period was over, and I came back, and for those of you who don't know me, I don't take a challenge very easily, and I definitely don't take no very easily, and if you were one of my commanders, you would know that for a fact. So I went back to my room, and I started thinking about it, and I was thinking about what the recruiter had done, and he had challenged me. So I was a bargainer. I came back to him, I left my room, and I said, you know what? If you'll pack your stuff up right now, I'll sign the papers, expecting him to say, well, we can't do it today, we'll do it tomorrow, and I would get out of it. He said, all right, let's go. So I didn't tell my father. We went up to Elizabethtown, signed the papers, we came back, and we're sitting. The only thing standing in my way now is my father's signature. So we're sitting in my living room, or actually at my kitchen table, and my dad walks in, and I'm sitting there, and he goes, what have you done now? So I said, Dad, I want to go to the Marine Corps. I've decided. He said, you were going to play football yesterday. I said, well, I'm ready to go. He said, well, have you really thought about this? I said, yeah, the hour drive up there and the hour drive back, I'm ready to go. So now I enlisted in the Marine Corps on June 18th, 2006, which I want to let you know is a date that I will never forget. I shipped off to Paris Island, and this is where I would spend my 18th birthday. Happy birthday, right? But it's not really as bad as the next 3 birthdays I had, because my 19th birthday, I was in Sniper School Hell Week. My 20th birthday, I was in Hell Week of Sniper School mountain training in Bridgeport, California. So, you know, I had a lot of good birthdays. But following Paris Island, I shipped off to Camp Geiger, North Carolina, where I completed infantry training. And then after that, I went off to Hawaii, where I would be stationed for the next 4 years. And this is where I also attended sniper school. So after attending sniper school, I quickly shipped off to Iraq. And in Iraq, I didn't get to complete my tour because I was bitten on my right hand by a vicious enemy spider, and I actually suffered severe nerve damage. But I want to let everyone in this room know that the enemy will stop at nothing. They even train their spiders to bite us. So I returned back home for 2 years of additional training and working up and trying to get my hand back. And this is where I became a sniper team leader in charge of 5 other Marines. And we were out in Mojave Viper, we're training up to go back to Iraq. Whenever my gunnery sergeant walked in, he said, we need 5 volunteers to go to Afghanistan. And I said, well, what's the mission? We said, well, we don't know yet. We need 5 volunteers right now. So I raised my hand and said, all right, I'm ready to go. So I ended up being assigned to a small team of advisors. And we were going to act as advisors to the Afghan National Army. And this is different because it's not used to like normal missions of going over with conventional forces and being around Americans and this and that. You know, we would live with 2 Marines, 1 Navy corpsman, or 3 Marines, 1 Navy corpsman, and 80 Afghans on a base. You want to talk about a complete culture shock? Well, I can tell you right now, I got one. But we did everything with these Afghans, from eating to drinking to building volleyball courts to mission planning to hearing about their stories of their lives. And it really helped us become a solid unit. And we learned to depend on one another and rely on one another. And I want to talk about the Afghans later on because of what the current events are. But I have to tell you, one of the best lessons I think this taught me is not to look at the world and not to judge people by their religion, their skin color, their financial status, or anything like that, but to accept them for who they are. Because, you know, I have to tell you, well, I'm guilty of having what I like to call the small town complex. Coming from a small town, I've got it. But it's where you think your world's only this big and that's how it is because that's how you were taught. I want to tell you right now, I'm 24 and I know that that's not the case anymore. But really, I mean, we always do that. We as humans are so fast to judge one another without really getting to know one another for what they are. So I definitely think it's something we could all take to and listen to. So anyways, we were stationed in northeastern Afghanistan in a place called Asmar. It's in the Kunar province, right on the Pakistan border. And this is where I would be stationed with Lieutenant Johnson, Gunnery Sergeant Kennefick, and Doc Layton. Now, Doc Layton was a Navy corpsman, but if anybody in here knows anything about Navy corpsmen, they might as well be Marines. So I'm going to call him a Marine from here on out. But so part of my opportunity was getting to meet these guys and get to develop our team, because this was a group of guys that I would eventually learn to call my brothers. Because when the advisor teams are put together, the brass just picks different skill sets, ranks, throw them in a team to go over and advise. They don't ever ask about personalities or anything like that. It's definitely not an episode of Love Connection. They just put you in there and expect you to get along. Because when I met Kennefick, Johnson, and Layton, these guys were totally different than me. I was the only infantryman in the group, and we're a breed of our own, to say the least. So I didn't really care about them at the time. I was just so excited of the thought of me getting to go to Afghanistan and get in a fight. So it didn't really matter to me. But what I learned more and more every single day is that these guys are the most important people in my life. Each of us shared a responsibility to take care of one another and to support one another and to protect one another. And it didn't take long before all the personality differences just melted away. And they were, without a doubt, my brothers. And there was never any doubt in my mind that they were willing to sacrifice their life at a moment's notice, just as I was for them. And in the end, they proved it. My whole team sacrificed their lives, not just for me, but for all of us in this room. So some of you know the details that unfolded that day on September 8, 2009. So we were running a mission in a village called Ganjgal Valley. This is the only mission they on the mission planning, they took me out and replaced me with a gunnery sergeant named Gunnery Sergeant Johnson. Now, Gunny J was a big guy. He looked like a typical Marine. And a fitness guru. He loved CrossFit, and he always led the workouts of the day. And I can tell you right now, I always hated it. But anyways, so Gunny J was going to take my spot. For what reason, I still ask the question today. So my assignment was to sit back at a secure position with all the vehicles and while my team entered the valley, which I was uncomfortable with, but being an E4 in the United States Marine Corps, you really don't have much of an option but to follow orders. So the mission was to enter the village and secure a town meeting because the village elders had came to us and said they were going to renounce themselves from the Taliban. And this is how I believe we win the war, for what it's worth. I believe that by lowering the supporters of the Taliban and by that, in stopping their freedom of movement, we win the war and stop terrorism. So that's what we were trying to do on this mission. But almost immediately upon entering the village, my team was under attack. It was an ambush, and it was big. And it didn't take me long to realize that it wasn't a normal ambush. I've been in quite a few firefights by this time, but it's like at the first of any firefight, it's kind of like the dust comes in, you try to figure out any situation. The dust comes in, you figure it out, and then your training just kicks in, and you just start doing your job after about 10 to 15 minutes. But not in this fight. It was like one thing after another started to fail us. And everything started to fall like a house of cards. Everything that we relied on in every other firefight to support us wasn't happening. And it was like our mission was falling quickly like a house of cards. And the enemy was seeing it, and they were taking full advantage of it. After some period of time, myself and my driver, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez Chavez, were sitting in the vehicle. We figured out we had to do something. We couldn't just sit back and watch anymore. So we requested to go in 4 times. And each time we were told no. And we finally looked at each other and said, you know what, we got to go in because that's what brothers do for one another. And we knew as soon as we were going on our own program that if the situation wasn't as bad as we thought it was, we were going to have to answer the mail for it. But I can tell you this. I would rather be here answering the consequences for my team being alive today and it not being as bad as it was than to be standing here today and knowing that I didn't do anything because I was worried about myself and my team be dead. But as we were going in, I hear Lieutenant Johnson over the radio start calling in a support artillery mission. And he starts calling it in, and with the format that we're taught to do, he calls it. It's spot on. It's perfect. And the response he got back was, his grid location was too close to the village. He said, if you don't give me these rounds right now, we're going to die. And the response back was, well, try your best. A few minutes later, I hear Gunnery Sergeant Kennefick come over the radio. And Gunny Kennefick said he had to call in a medical evacuation. He was trying to give a grid. And he kept getting cut off because of all the confusion, the radio traffic going over the radio. With his frustrated voice, he finally said, get off the radio. I'm trying to give a grid for a medevac. So everyone did. So he started giving his grid coordinates, so I pull out my Sharpie and I'm starting to write on the Humvee turret because if I can write the grid down, I tell myself I can locate his position on the map, go straight to him, and I can find where my missing team is. With my Sharpie in my hand, he got his first 3 grids out, and he stopped. And that was the last time I ever heard from my teammates. After 6 more hours of evacuating out Afghan soldiers and wounded Marines and searching for the missing guys, a helicopter spotted their lifeless bodies in a trench. And when I got to them, I immediately knew that they were all gone. But it's like, you know, I didn't want to face it. Surely it can't be all of them. This can't be true. So I checked each one of them for a pulse to only confirm what I already knew. And they all fell together doing their jobs as they had sworn to do the day that they enlisted in the military, as every man and woman does when they enlist. They paid the ultimate sacrifice. And the details that day are difficult for me to communicate to, but I'm sure you get the scene now. So now my actions of that day have been recognized as outstanding and courageous. But for me, to be honest, it's only the exact opposite. Because we live by the words, you never leave a fallen Marine behind. Or you get them out alive, or you die trying. And if you didn't die trying, well, it's simple. You didn't try hard enough. And I was just doing what my brothers or any other Marine would have done for me. And now I've been honored by our country and the President of the United States, and I stand before you as a Medal of Honor recipient. So after hearing how I view the Medal of Honor and the situation and how I feel about it, I'm sure you can now see why I have struggles with the Medal of Honor. I've been called an American hero, but I want to tell you, if this is what it feels like to be a hero, you can have it. I'm not a hero, they are. So I decided that that day I would accept the Medal of Honor on behalf of all the Marines, on behalf of all the men and women serving, and on behalf of all the men and women who have sacrificed so much for our countries and all the families who have done so much as well. Because I am just one of thousands of Marines who would have done the exact same thing put in that situation. And all the credit goes to my family and the Marines' oath to never leave a fallen man behind. I always refer to it as the opportunity I was given. Because like I said earlier, I truly believe that any man or woman who stands up and raises their right hand to go sacrifice and put their life on hold for our country would have done the exact same thing being in any situation that I was. I was just given the opportunity to perform my duties. So from the time of the conflict, it was over 2 years before the Medal of Honor was awarded. And during that time, not a single day passed that I wasn't caught with the thoughts of frustration, guilt, anger, the what-if questions. We've all been through it. I lived with the pain of trying to figure out what could I have done different. Why had I somehow survived? Why was I given the opportunity to live? Why them and not me? And the truth is that every day I still ask those exact same questions. And I've decided that I can take this opportunity to grow, and I can take this opportunity to educate, and I can take this opportunity to lead. And I want to share the opportunity with groups just like you of the reality that unfolded on September 8, 2009, because it has forever changed my existence in life. So now, this part of my life, going around and meeting America, that's what I call it, meeting America. I mean, just imagine being 24 years old on a construction site one day to having the president call you on your cell phone after you tried to miss it numerous times to tell you that you'd be receiving the Medal of Honor and being a national figure overnight. Let me say something. Don't envy me. So now everyone in America is watching every single move that I make, and remembering that I'm 24 years old is way out of the question. Talking about pressure and stress, that goes back to, but it's bigger than me. So you know what? I got to tell you, I'm tired of looking at notes. I'm just going to tell you how I really feel. So I look at everything. The president called me, and it all started off. The president called me on my cell phone, and I got told the Marine come in and say, you know what, Dakota? You're getting ready to receive the Medal of Honor. We need to start planning for it. And if planning for a wedding is like planning for the ceremony, I'm out on getting married. So we started planning for this, and I told him, I said, you know what? I don't want the medal. I don't feel like I deserve the medal, so I started bargaining with him. Let's break it down to a Navy Cross. We'll call it even, and I can go back and fight. Because John Basilone really messed things up for me to go back and fight. So he said, but that's not going to happen. So the president called me on my construction site one day, and I was talking to him, and I said, you know what, sir, will you please not give me the Medal of Honor? Because I am nothing but a failure. Please do not do this to me. And he said, you know what, Dakota? It's bigger than you. And it's bigger than me, so I start thinking about that, and I really get frustrated because I'm like, bigger than me? Is this the best answer you could give me? Bigger than me? You're about to mess my whole life up. So thinking about it, I went through the frustrations of drinking every day, drinking an average of a bottle of Crown a day, the frustration, the guilt, and I started thinking about it, and I looked down at my wrist, and I wear the bracelets with all 4 names of my guys on them. And I looked down and I said, you know what, why am I feeling this way? Why am I so frustrated? Why am I not taking advantage of my life? And when I started thinking of it that way, I said, I'm not feeling sorry for those guys because they're in a better place on whatever you think about. I'm just feeling sorry for myself. And I need to go on and take advantage and go ahead and start making my life better and live life to the fullest. And with that, I've came up with my own theory. So you can imagine what this is going to be. So I came out of the Marine Corps, and I wanted to make it so much different. I'm out of the Marine Corps, and just like a lot of Marines do, we get out, we're frustrated with, how the Marine Corps is and how you're trained and stuff. And but I look at it as the Marine Corps as a whole has probably the best setup that I've ever seen. And you can apply it to everything in life. Because no offense to the other branches of the service, but you know how the Marines are. They hold themselves to a high standard. I mean, no one can disagree with me on that. We nitpick at each other over the smallest things, over a haircut. You got to get one every 2 weeks. But we do this because in the Marine Corps, we have made a culture to where we will accept nothing less than being the best. We've dictated a culture to where we want to hold each other accountable to where we will succeed. Now, are we really better? Are we really the few, the proud? Who knows? I mean, it's just an ego thing. It doesn't matter. But what we've done is we've made a culture to where we will accept nothing less than being the best. So with inside that, we have two things, opportunities and accountabilities. Now, everyone in here will agree with me on every day we're presented with situations that aren't always favorable, and we don't have control of them, right? So with those situations, you can either look at them as situations, but I've started looking at them as opportunities. And maybe you look at me and you say, Dakota, not everything in life is an opportunity. Well, I'll use the worst case scenario. I use the worst case scenario of a family member getting sick or a family member dying. No, is that an opportunity? No, it's not. But it is an opportunity because it slows your life down and it makes you start evaluating on how you live your life and everything like that. And after you start doing that and you start using this opportunity to evaluate your life, it's at that point that you need to hold yourself accountable to make sure that you change your life and fix the things that you've overlooked every single day and to make it better. Do you agree? So, and with that, I also want to tell you something else that I've learned. I've learned about people and going around and meeting so many different people. I'm from a small town in Kentucky. I travel 25 to 28 days a month, and I go around speaking to numerous types of people. And some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are crazy. But I like to say is it's like with these Afghans now. My Afghans were the closest people to me as any Marine was in my entire life. These Afghan soldiers, I still keep in touch with them every week at least. And I want to let you know and assure you that these Afghans have sacrificed so much and helped us out over there, because with the current day situations going on, they always fail to give these guys credit. They're making them look bad over there right now. But I want to let you know that these guys stood up and they helped me every single day and become what I am. And it's not fair for us as Americans, because I didn't go over there and fight for Republicans. I didn't go over there and fight for Democrats. I didn't go over there and fight for any type of color, Christians, Muslims. I didn't fight for any of them. You want to know what I fought for? I fought for Americans. And we all need to understand that and realize that and pull back together and ensure that we all know that we live in the greatest country on the face of the earth. I've accepted that I have an opportunity to go out and speak and share these stories with people just like you who will listen to me. And I've used this platform to go out and make a difference. And maybe you look at me now and you say, well, Dakota, why can you say this? What do you know? You're 24. Well, yesterday I gave out my first 12 scholarships from the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation. And it's been the greatest thing that I've done. I called up Margaret Davis last year before receiving the medal, because I decided I was going to accept the medal and that I wanted to go out and make a difference. And I called her up and I said, you know what? What can I do to make a difference? I want to educate kids and I want to help them. And I want to still do what I can for Marines. She said, well, let's start a scholarship fund. I said, okay. She said, well, what on top of that, on the scholarship fund, how much money do you think you can raise? I said, I don't know. It sounds good, $1 million. I don't know what that is, though. So she's like, all right, so we'll give you about a year to raise $1 million and have your challenge to America. So not knowing how I would do it, just knowing that I would do whatever it took, I raised $1.2 million within 4 months, And I gave out my first 12 scholarships yesterday. It's been the greatest thing I could do. And with that, I've teamed up with Toyota to go out and try to get veterans jobs. And with that, we're going out and we're speaking, and I'm trying to help guys get jobs and this and that, and I'm standing up for veterans, and I'm standing up and trying to make a difference. And then we also wrote the book. And I hope when you read the book, you go home and you read everything that I talk about and how I figured this stuff out, and it makes a difference. And I want to say, I'm going on and I'm speaking, and I'm doing it for the men and women who sacrificed so much for our lives. Because every day that you don't do that inside this room, and you don't go out and do the best that you can, you're doing nothing less than disgracing all those men and women who've paid so much for us. And I want to let you know something. I'm not okay with that. Are you? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Go ahead and
So I like to open up for questions at the end, if you have any. Oh, come on now. If you don't start asking me questions, I'm going to start asking you them. Yes, sir. How do I see the rest of my life? That's a great question. You know, I tell everyone, I have a construction company. I'm working with Toyota. I'm consulting for a few companies. I just finished a book. Like I said, I'm on the road quite a bit, but how do I see the rest of my life? You know, that's a challenge that I have is I'm 24 years old, okay, and everybody agrees that we live our life to try to top everything we do. We always like use everything as stepping stones, right? Well, what am I supposed to do at 24 years old? I've received the Medal of Honor, and I've done so many things. What am I going to do for the rest of my life to top it? Well, I'm going to find something, I promise you that. And it's going to be for someone else. It's going to be to make a difference and go out and speak and say things and be true to myself and be true to Americans and hopefully inspire the whole nation to stand up and start a culture just like the Marine Corps does, to accept nothing less than being the best and hold each other accountable every day. So the rest of my life is to go out and make a difference, whatever that might be. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. To be honest with you, I have no idea. I'm going to find out. I get asked that question all the time, and I've never asked. I don't know. I wasn't there. I got a question right here someone wrote down. Dakota, what are the things we can do to help servicemen and their families? Help their servicemen and their families. I want to tell you, this is a topic that a lot of people get mad at me about, but guess what? I'm going to speak on it because I'm so passionate about it. You know, a lot of guys come back and they deal with the stress of the war, of what's going on, and they deal with, the events that occurred over there. What I believe you can do to help them out the most, people like that, is hold them accountable every day in their actions. Because just because that, I get so frustrated when I see a guy not go out, especially a member who has served and done so much for our country. I get so frustrated when they don't go out and take every opportunity every single day and they use something to hold them back, or they let something like, I guess, PTSD hold them back. Because let me tell you something. These guys have seen what it takes to be able to live in this great country and be free. They've seen it. And for them to sit there and disregard that and disregard what they've seen happen and to let themselves not go out and make a difference and not go and be the best they can every single day, it bothers me a lot. But I think what can we do to help everyone out is don't forget why you're sitting here and why you live in a free country. I'd say that's probably what's going to help out the most is do that. Thank a veteran. Don't ever forget, because we take our freedom every single day, take advantage of it, and we forget why we're here. Just as we're standing here right now, I can promise you there is someone getting shot at. There is someone who is scared to death for their life, and there's some family member who is sitting here who is wondering what's going on. So it's not just about the men and women serving, it's about their families, because they serve too. So we just never can forget them, and I think that's what's gonna be the biggest difference, in my opinion. Yes, sir. Oh, good. Yes, sir. You know, in the Marine Corps, we're taught obedience to orders. But I want to tell you something else we're taught is honor, courage, and commitment. And we're taught accountability. And just because there's obedience to orders, the bond with me and my brothers was stronger than what I've learned of obedience to orders, because they held me accountable. And when I say they held me accountable to never leave a fallen man behind and to get them out alive or die trying. And that's what it was. I knew that whenever I left that position after they had told me no, I knew that I said it the whole way, like, oh man, I'm going to have to answer it for this. But you know what? It's the right thing to do. You know, just because there's obedience to orders doesn't mean it's always the right thing to do. So that's more of what I like to live by, is doing what's right and doing what I can. That way I can go home at night and look myself in the mirror. Sir.
You're an excellent representative of the military, and I imagine there are thousands of guys just like you, and that caused you a great deal of trouble with respect to being so recognized. But you're inspirational, motivational, and you're lucky, but you didn't feel lucky. You felt unlucky.
No.
And said that luck is a combination of preparation and opportunity. I mean, what was it for you? Because you accomplished a hell of a lot in 6 years since you came to the Marines. You must have been a pretty talented guy at the outset. Was it preparation? Was it the Marines? Was it opportunity?
No, it was, you know, it was a combination of all of them. You know, growing up with my father always never would let me quit, and he always taught me to do what's right. You know, my father never was in any kind of cliques, anything like that, you know, because he just does what's right. He does what he feels is the best for him, and that's what he put in me. And then with the Marine Corps training on top of it, and they just, I mean, it's the same thing in the Marine Corps. My father had taught me all the way up to the Marine Corps, and they just pounded it in you even more. And then it's a lot of luck. How did I not die that day? I don't know. I can't even begin to tell you how. I don't know how I didn't die that day. But I didn't, and there's a reason. And every day that we have to live on is a bonus day. If you go to sleep tonight and you wake up in the morning, that's a bonus day. And we as humans are getting to the point to where we feel like we're entitled. We're entitled stuff. We're entitled tomorrow. Well, guess what? We're not entitled to anything. And that's the thing we got to remember is every day is a bonus day. Why worry about the unknown? We all worry so much about tomorrow, when why don't we just get through today? So, but it was a lot of luck too. There's so many combinations. It was crazy. But thank you. Yes, ma'am. Do whatever they want. You know, it's their own decision, because I don't ever want them to look back at me and say, well, you know, you pushed us into it, or you made me do this, or I don't want the guilt on my hands if something bad happens to them, that, hey, I pushed you into it. You make your own decision. I'll give them all the facts that they need to know and let them make their own decisions, and that's all we can do, you know. We never make up anybody's mind for them. But no, I definitely recommend it. If you don't go to college, I'd recommend going to the military. So, and of course, I'm going to say the Marines because I'm biased. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. No, I don't. She said, I'm not wearing my medal today. Do I ever wear it? And no, I don't. The only time I wear my medal is whenever I'm in uniform, because I'm required to wear my medals. And I don't wear it because that's not what I'm about. I'm foremost a Marine, and I'm an American. That's why I wear American flag cufflinks. I don't wear the medal because, you know, I don't have enough of them, because I want to let you know that any man or woman serving, or all these Marines in the back in uniform, they should be wearing the medal, and it's just as much theirs as it is mine. Because I truly believe, ask them, how many, if you've ever been in a situation to receive a Medal of Honor, raise your hand. None of them. That's why they don't have a Medal of Honor around their neck. Sir.
Cody, the film you had showed Army lessons learned. Have you talked to the NCOs at the academies or at any of the war colleges about your experience? Because you've actually reflect what we teach, which is an enlisted man can replace the sergeant, can replace the first lieutenant.
Yep.
You made a decision to overrule the chain of command.
Well, I have, yeah. I've spoke at the Naval Academy, but I don't go out and speak a lot because a lot of people don't want to hear what I have to say. You know what I mean? We get into rules of engagement, and like I said last night, I truly believe that if you let an officer or anybody give you an excuse of, well, the rules of engagement stop me from doing something or this or that, pardon my language, but that's complete bullshit. It's just incompetent leadership not being able to make a decision is what it is. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi. We're in Charleston, South Carolina, about 70 miles from Parasite.
Sir.
My brother was a Marine and trained at Parasite. At 17 years old, what did you think of your experience at Parasite?
Oh, it was a great vacation. No. No, it was a wake-up call, you know. It was, I can't really look back on it because I didn't get to experience it, you know, from the outside. I just was doing what I was told and marching around. I actually went back to the base about a month ago. And I was like, I didn't even know this was here. And I was like, it seemed like coming from this place to this place was so much longer. And they were like, it was, because we take you all the way around the other side. And I'm like, oh, wow. So, but thank you all so much for having me here today. I really appreciate the questions. Take care. Thanks so much.
I'll take it down for you. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming. If you can just clear this aisle right here, that would be